Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Gail Carson with your fourth module in the SOB recipe for living life with gusto system at any age. And today's program and today's module is about your personal journey. Now, when we talk about your personal power journey, it's very important to understand what we mean by personal power and also the word power relationships. Now, some people think of power relationships by those titles that you might have or the dollars that you might earn. And they think of people who are CEOs of Fortune 50 or 100 companies, or people who have, this great power in terms of who they are by wealth. That's not what we're talking about here. I mean, that is a power relationship. And if you know those people, that's great. But since most of us do not, and most of us do not have those relationships, I'm talking about other kinds of personal power and power relationships. For example, there are people who you know who may be able to introduce you to other people who you wish to know simply because they happen to be in their circle. It could be people who, just because they know, so to speak, where the bodies are buried, they're able to get you to the people that you're trying to reach. For example, a receptionist. A receptionist knows who you need to talk to get a particular problem solved. They can also put you through or not put you through, very often like an executive assistant or executive secretary. It could be a customer service person. When you go into a company and you have an issue or a problem, they know how to solve your problem, or they know who you can talk to who will solve your problem. Those are people who are in positions that aren't high paying or really very meaningful in terms of titles, so to speak, but they know who you need to speak to. Janitors in buildings know more of what's going on than many people, simply because they're around people all the time who are talking. So when I talk about personal relationships or power relationships, they could be all kinds of different people. You might have certain people who influence you spiritually, who are important to you for the way you think or the way you act or the way you are. It could be particular teachers that you have. It could be people who are acquaintances of other friends. And you know that saying, you're only 6 degrees of separation from someone. Well, basically in today's world, that's true. With all the online communities that we have, usually if you can find somebody, for example, on LinkedIn, who is in a position in a particular company, you might contact them and say, I know you may not be the person to speak to, but who would you recommend in your organization who would deal in, and then tell them what you need. And very often they'll be very helpful for you. So when we talk about these relationships, I want you to think about them in a lot of different ways, because it's not just title or money. Many of you have friends who can put you in contact with the people that you know, and that's one of that you want to know. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's very important to have a great diversity of friends, because if you have friends who are only in one profession or one industry, they know people certainly in that particular business, but they may not know people that you need to know. That's why I enjoy going to networking events where I can meet a lot of different kinds of people. And when you go to a networking event, it isn't how many cards you collect. It's how many meaningful dialogues you have. And have you ever been in a networking event where you're speaking to them and they're looking over their shoulder somewhere to see who's next? That's not what you want. You want to have a meaningful relationship in terms of, if I can't do business with you, do I know somebody who might be able to do business with you, and vice versa. So even though you yourself cannot do anything for me or I for you, we may know people who you should be talking to or I should be talking to. So when you talk to your friends and ask them if they know anybody in a particular industry, that might be very helpful. Now, I have had the opportunity to serve on a lot of different boards, and I've either been on a board or an officer or president of the organizations that I belong to. I have always prided myself on having a very diversified board. And the reason for that is because you get a lot of different opinions. Not everybody thinks the same way. And even though you may not agree, other people bring out some very interesting and vital points. And by looking at it from their viewpoint, it gives you an idea of the things you need to be aware of, perhaps pitfalls you might run into. So it's really, really important that you get as much diversity on your boards and in your life as you possibly can. And when we talk about, looking at today's personal journeys, with social media, nothing is really private anymore. You've got Facebook where it's much more personal, but there you have a personal page and you can have a public page. So you might have two diverse audiences there. On LinkedIn, it is mostly professional. So you will have a great deal of diversified industries and positions on LinkedIn. And, there's all these other, I only deal with those primarily. And of course, you've got Twitter, which is important too for getting your messages out quickly and easily. But it's important to understand that in today's social media world, you can find just about anybody that you're looking for. And that's what you have to pay attention to, because what goes on those social media sites goes on forever. So anything you don't want on there, anything you don't want known about yourself, anything you don't want said about yourself, don't put it there, because it's going to follow you forever and ever and ever. I always wonder why people put some of the things on there that they do, because who cares? I mean, I actually have read one site because they asked me to be a friend. So I went to look, do I want to be their friend? And they're talking about the most inane things, and I did not friend them because I thought, I don't need this. I mean, it just didn't make any sense what they were talking about. Nothing meaningful there. Another thing you should be looking for on your own personal journey is people who can get you to the next level. Now, I'm not talking about getting you to the next level for willful gain. I'm talking about, don't you want to be stimulated? Don't you want people who can make you think a little better and a little broader? They always say you're the culmination of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. Well, take a look around you. Who are your friends? Now, hopefully you're not getting rid of your friends from grammar school or high school or anything like that, or college. The important thing is, though, you want to make new friends who can maybe push you a little bit, who can stimulate your thinking, who can get you out of that box that you might be in. So when we talk about your unique personal power and what is different about you, hopefully it's because of all the people that you surround yourself with. So on a daily basis, I want you to really look inside your day and your life and say, okay, did I meet anybody new today? Did I do anything different today? Was there somebody that I wanted to meet that I couldn't figure out how to meet? Is there somebody in this realm of my circle that I want to be a part of my life that has not entered yet? How do I get to them? That's important. One of the things that's very big right now are mastermind groups. Now, I belong to several mastermind groups, and as a matter of fact, I am a facilitator for a mastermind group for not-for-profit organizations. However, when you're in a mastermind group, very often you're in a mastermind group of people who are like you, and that's good. I mean, if you, for example, I'm a speaker. Do I want to be in a speaker mastermind group? Probably, because they're going to talk about new things they're trying out, new techniques, new types of programs they're doing. So that's important. So yes, probably. But do I also want to be in a group maybe of businesses that are not speakers? They don't even know what a speaker is. Maybe there's a gas and oil company. Maybe there's a retail company. Maybe there's an advertising company, et cetera, because they look at business as business. And so their principles are still the same. They're looking to make a profit, to do it ethically, morally, and the best way to do it. So if I'm looking for business techniques or business skills, I might find something that's certainly transferable to what I do. So when we talk about mastermind groups, I think they're great, but you've got to find the right ones for you. Now, I happened to have belonged to 3 different mastermind groups. Probably 4 when I think about it. And I know people who are very, very, very successful who belong to 2 to 3 mastermind groups at one time because they want the stimulation of all the different thought processes. So all I'm saying to you is if you find a mastermind group and you want to join it and you want to be a part of it, and usually there is a fee involved in this, so that might determine what you do decide to enter and what you don't. But if you get into some of these groups that are pretty high level, they can get you to the person you want to meet, or they might have the right connections that get you to the person. So mastermind groups is one way of getting there. Another way is when you go to these special events or you go to these different conferences, you will meet people who are at different levels of success. And the interesting thing that I have found is the most successful people either sit at the very back because they're taking notes very quietly, they don't want to make anybody aware of where they are, who they are, etc., or they're in the very front row taking all the notes because they want to learn and they want to catch every little morsel that comes out of the speaker's mouth. So usually in the very front or in the very back. But if you meet these people, don't just ask them for something. Cultivate a friendship first. Cultivate getting to know them. Get into a meaningful conversation. Even talk about some of the things that they have written or done or the videos you might have seen of them, because they will appreciate that you are a fan of theirs and they want to keep their fans. So if they know you are not just an opportunist, but you're someone who is there because you really follow what they do and what they say, absolutely, you can ask them just about any question you want to. Now, when we talk about personal power, remember that power can be good or it can be bad. And hopefully you are using it for something good. If you know you have clout in a particular area, use it for good. Use it to help people. Use it to help someone get to the next level. Don't ever be envious or jealous of someone. I mean, you can certainly envy their talent. You can certainly wish that you had more of what they were able to do, but that shouldn't make you put you in a position where you're trying to do something which will be harmful to them. So I want you to know that when you have power, use it to the good. If you can make an introduction for somebody, sometimes I meet somebody and I think, wow, I know who this person needs to get in touch with. And I'll make the connection. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the two of them. They will benefit from it. And guess what? When you introduce somebody to someone and it works out, they're not going to forget who introduced them. It's going to be a very powerful thing for you to do. So remember, power for good, not for evil. One of the key parts to having personal power is being able to connect people, as I've said. And that's one of the things that I'm very fortunate in doing. I happen to talk to everybody for any reason, for any purpose. I am definitely an extrovert. I'm very outgoing. I will go up to anybody and ask them anything. And that's the problem. I will make conversation even when there isn't conversation because I like to talk to people. And I've met a lot of friends that way. So it's really important for you to say, okay, if I can go up to someone and I can meet them and I can use my personality to get to know them, then I shouldn't keep them just to myself. I should go ahead and I should try to introduce them to someone else. So if someone is standing nearby, I might say, oh, have you met John Jones? I mean, I could say that so easily. This is somebody you really should get to know. He's very interested in, and then name what he's interested in. But the important thing is to use your personal power, again, for the good and to connect other people and to meet new people for yourself. Because most people will not come up to you. And it's not because they don't like you. It's almost as if they're intimidated. They're not outgoing people, so they're going to keep to themselves. And they're probably thinking, why would this person want to get to know me? I mean, I don't know if we have anything in common. Why should I extend the olive branch? You extend the olive branch, and you'll be remembered for it. One of the things that people talk about a lot is how do you get known? How do people become aware of who you are? Well, this is, of course, being an expert in your field, an authority in your industry. You might have written something that has gotten good press or people respect and admire. You might do a lot of articles, for example, that are featured in industry publications. You might be an expert who has written a book. You might be someone who has been on television stating a particular viewpoint or cause. You might have been on a radio program. Now, for example, I do a lot of television, and I do it for the over 50 market. And I talk about, things that might start a second career. I talk about things about that have to do with healthy living. I talk about things that help people if they're moving to a new community or if they're downsizing. So those are things that I'm an expert in because I specialize in the over 50 market. On the other hand, I do 12 radio shows a month where I interview 12 different people every month. And there's 3 different shows. One is Women in Business, where I interview women who have their own business or are senior managers. Another is what I call Living Regret-Free. So this could be a man or a woman who shows you how to live a better life. And then the third one is my own network, which is SOBradionetwork.com. And I have women over 50 doing programs for women over 50. And then, of course, my show is for women over 50 as well. And I interview women who are over 50 who I think are exceptional, who are going like crazy. They're doing wonderful things. Well, I give every guest a recording of the show so they can put it on their website or they can use it for promotion any way they want. And then, of course, I put the recordings on my website so people can see what I'm doing. And then also for the SOB Radio Network, it shows the women over 50, which is my specialty, what other women over 50 are doing. So it gives them some stimulus to do something unique and different. So when we talk about this, why would someone want to be in touch with me? Because I'm an expert in that field. So you should try to become knowledgeable about the journalists who work in your field. And you can find that out by reading the papers, who does articles on the things that you're an expert in, listen to radio programs, who have guests in the area that you deal with, and the same thing with television. Every television network, every television station usually has a local show on in the early morning or sometimes late afternoon, usually not in the evening, but early morning or late afternoon. That's a community show, that's a local show that deals in a lot of different issues that you might be able to comment on. And if you are well known in the area and that station knows that they can call you at any time because you're local and you can come on and give an opinion about something, what a great way to get known. Because if you're an expert and you're right there, what better opportunity? And that gives you a tremendous amount of power, personal power. And other people will then want to be in a relationship with you because of your influence. And that's a key area. So think about that. And that's why people want to get on the media. In fact, I have a whole media program on how to get on television, how to get on radio, how to write a book, how to send out a press release that gets read. That's a whole other course. But the point is, you do that so that you become known. And then when you walk into a room, people want to get to know who you are. So those are some hints for you to be able to do that. Now, you also have to come up with your own, what I call personal power. And that's a uniqueness about yourself. And you might say, well, nothing unique about me. Well, remember, there are no 2 snowflakes that look alike, and there are not 2 people who are alike either. So when people talk about you, what do they say that's unique about you? And you say, well, there's nothing unique. I can't remember. But if you ask your friends, they'll tell you, say, what do you have that's unique about me? Tell me what's unique about myself. Now, if I looked at what people say about me, they're always talking about my energy. And there's no question, I am a very energetic person. And it's because of how I live my life. But the point is, I don't usually get tired. So people are always talking about, where do you get your energy? That's unique about me. Because most people my age don't have the energy that I have. And I know my son always says to me, Mom, you've got more energy than I do. I don't know how you do what you do. And even when I travel, I never get tired. It doesn't matter if I'm on the West Coast, East Coast, whatever. I go to bed the same time and I get up the same time. And if I'm traveling and I get in at 1 o'clock in the morning for some reason because of planes or whatever, I'm still up at 6 or 7 in the morning. So that's the point. Energy for me, number one. The other thing that's very unique about me is that I will talk to anybody about anything at any time. I say you could put me in the middle of the highway and ask me to talk about potato chips, and I'd be able to talk about potato chips for an hour, because that's a gift I have. That's unique about me. I can talk to anybody, whether it's a crowd of 2,000 or there's 2 people. I can talk to you. So that's a uniqueness about me. So I'm energetic. I can talk to anybody, okay, whether it's on stage or in person. And I guess the third thing about me is that I'm very diversified in my interests. If you looked at what I read, you'd say, well, who is she? Because my literature is so diverse. And if you asked, what do I watch on television? And I do watch television. It's diverse. So I can talk to anybody. I may not be an expert in everything, but I can talk about a great variety of things because my friends are diversified, my reading is diversified, and my interests are diversified. So that's another thing that's unique about me. Now, I had a woman in one of my seminars, and she said to me, I just can't figure out what is unique about me. I said, well, tell me what you like to do. She says, well, I like to bake. I said, really? She said, yeah, I bake cakes. I said, what kind of cakes? She said, all kinds of cakes. I bake cakes for weddings and for engagement parties and for birthday parties. And I said, really? Cakes? People ask you to make these cakes. She said, yes, they do. I said, do they pay you for them? She said, well, I didn't want to charge in the beginning, but now I'm charging because so many people asked me. It got expensive, and so now I'm even thinking of opening up a cake shop. Well, I thought opening a cake shop, I mean, that's something I would never do. I don't cook and I don't bake. And it's interesting because my mom was an expert cook and an expert baker. Well, this woman did not think this was unique at all. I thought it was very unique because I don't do it. She, on the other hand, will probably not get up on stage and give a speech. So don't look at yourself and say, well, there's nothing unusual about me, because everybody has something that is very unusual about them. You just have to ask your friends and pay attention to what they say and pay attention to what you do, because there is something unique about you. I would also ask you, what are you passionate about? What really turns you on? Now, I know that one of my passions is animals. I always have animals around me, and whenever there's an animal anywhere outside around me, I'm stopping and petting it. It's just one of the things that keeps me going. I love them. And right now I'm down to 2 cats, and yes, they make a lot of mess, and yes, there are problems, but I love them, and I'll always have some kind of animal around me. So animals are one thing that I'm passionate about. Another thing I'm passionate about is the water. I love the water. I love to look at it. I love to be around it. It just gives me a very peaceful feeling. That's another thing that's a passion. Believe it or not, what I'm doing today is a passion. I am passionate about getting my message out. Not that I think mine is the only message that you should listen to or hear, but I am passionate about getting my message out. I really want to help women who have reached the age of 50 plus. Now, why? Because I just think that they're missing out on a lot of things. I've had so many women say to me, well, now what? And I say, now what? And they say, well, I'm 50 and I'm like more than halfway through my life. And I say, no, you're not. You're just halfway through your life, and there's so much more you can do. And they don't always believe it. And so that's a passion of mine. So I work at it all the time. I'm always communicating about what you can accomplish because you have so many experiences and knowledge behind you. So think about, what are your passions and what can make you unique and different and what puts you on your personal journey because of how you think and what you've done. One of the things that I'm going to ask you to do, and I know you're not going to be too happy about this because it kind of is morbid in a way, but I'm going to ask you to write your own obituary. If you wrote your own obituary, what would it say? Would you list all the awards you've won? Would you list all your accomplishments in business? I know you'd mention your family. You'd put down your family, although maybe some of you wouldn't. I don't know, but hopefully you would. The important thing is, what would it say about you? And what do you wish it would say about you? That should give you a pretty good idea of how you've lived your life, how you want to continue to live your life, what's important in your life. Because sometimes we get so hung up on things that happen to us during the day. I mean, there's just a lot of things that go on in our life, and we say, oh, wow, why did this have to happen to me? But you're probably never going to mention that in an obituary. So try to put everything into perspective. That's the important thing. And if you wish there was something on that list, that obituary that you've just written, that you haven't done, what's stopping you? Is it that people say you just can't do it, or it's too expensive, or what are you thinking? Are you crazy? Who do you think you are? Don't you know you have other responsibilities? I mean, there's all kinds of things people say to you. But what's important to you? What is on your bucket list that you haven't done? What do you want included in your obituary that you haven't done? It's very, very important. That's one of the reasons I tell people to read biographies of famous people. You'll find that many of them, first of all, have failed many times before they reach success. You will find they had very diversified interests. You'll find that they tried a lot of things before they found what really worked. And sometimes what really put them over the top was something entirely different that they had not even thought of, but because they were in certain circumstances, had them become famous. I mean, I'm thinking right now of Sully Sullenberger, the pilot who landed the plane on the Hudson River. He was a pilot for how many years? A long time. And he was very, very good at what he did. He certainly was an expert in his field, but nobody would have known his name had he not landed that plane on the Hudson, gotten everybody out safely. And one of the reasons he was able to do that was not only his experience as a pilot of an airliner, but also because he had a lot of experience in flying gliders. However, now he's a very well-paid consultant for one of the networks. And whenever there is any kind of air problem or air disaster or air question, he is on that network talking about his opinion on things. And people listen because he knows what he's talking about. But if you had asked him a few years ago, do you think you'll ever be on national television as an expert in aviation? He would have told you, are you crazy? I fly planes and I'm going to retire. And that's it. So certain circumstances put you in a situation sometimes that you are not always prepared for. I want you to think about your strengths and your weaknesses. What do you do very well? Now, I've already told you what I do well. I talk to people well. I can get up on a stage. I can talk in front of a camera. I can talk on radio or whatever. I told you that I'm very extemporaneous. I'm very energetic. What am I not good at? Don't like details. Don't like graphs. Don't like any kind of analytics. And I can add, subtract, multiply, and divide quickly without any paper. I can do it. I can just pretty well do it in my mind. And if you've got a column of figures, I can add it up faster than an adding machine. But don't give me quotients, and don't give me fractions, and don't give me any of those algebra problems, because I don't want to do them, and I don't like doing them. My mind completely shuts down. So I need people to help me with that. Now, it used to be that they would say, work on your weaknesses. What you do well, you will always do well. Now the thinking is totally different. They say, if you're a duck, you're always a duck. You will always do well in the water. But if you're someone who doesn't do well in the water, if you're an animal that cannot swim like a duck, no matter what you do, it's not going to change you. If you're an oak tree, it doesn't matter how you try, you're never going to be an elm tree. So the philosophy is now, hire what you don't do well and concentrate on what you do well so that you do it even better and better and better. Now, I think you have to have an awareness. You have to have awareness in the areas that you're not good at. You can't be totally blinded by it. However, concentrate on your strengths and delegate your weaknesses. I also want you to think about how you introduce yourself to people. Now, you have to have a bunch of different introductions depending on where you are and who you are. Number one, you have to have a 7-second introduction because that's all people will pay attention to in the beginning. So 7 seconds. Then you need a 30-second introduction. Maybe you're going up and down an elevator, you know, that elevator pitch. Well, you need 30 seconds in an elevator to get out if you want to get something done. Or it could be if you're in a situation where someone is concentrating or you do have the floor, you get up at an event and you get to introduce yourself, you have your 30 seconds. But just remember, say what needs to be said. Don't stumble around. I have been on a lot of webinars lately, and when the question and answer period comes, I'm amazed. People stumble around with their questions. You have a question, get it out, ask it. I hear a lot of, I've been thinking about, and they haven't even gotten the question out in 30 seconds, it's gone by. Make sure your introductions are succinct, they're to the point. When you have a question to ask it succinctly. No ums, no ahs, none of that. So it's very important. Now, when we're talking about your personal journey, and we're talking about power relationships. So when you present yourself to someone, you need to do it in the best way possible. Say who you are, what you're doing there, and maybe what your biggest need is. For example, if I'm at a networking meeting, I might say, hi, I'm Dr. Gail Carson, SOB, spunky old broad, and I particularly work with women 50 plus. If any of you have an area where you have someone in that, you know, ilk, realm, whatever, depending on who it is, if any of you have a need for someone to do a joint venture with someone who has an audience of 50 plus, please let me know. And that was not even 30 seconds, and that was if it was a joint venture situation. But the point is, hi, I'm Dr. Gail Carson, SOB, spunky old broad. I work with women 50 plus to have them lead a better and happier life. Period. That's it. Okay? Have an introduction ready. Most important, I want you to be proud of what you have to offer. If you're working in a particular area, be proud of it. Shout it out from the highest rooftop. When people say, what do you do? I say, I work with women 50 plus so they can live a happier, well-rounded life. Well, how do you do that? That's the question you want them to ask. How do you do it? You state what you do, and then you want people to say, tell me more, or how do you do that? That is your personal message. Again, if I'm in a different realm, I might say, if I'm working in like something with the media, I might say, hi, I'm Dr. Gail Carson. Yes, and I do 12 radio shows a month and have my own radio network. Tell me more. Well, I do 12 shows, 3 on blah, 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 blah. The whole point, again, is who are you meeting? Who are you being introduced to? When we talk about your unique personal power, I want you to use that as your biggest strength. What is it that you do that sets you apart from the other people in your department, in your business, in your industry, or in your life? What is it that people know you for? What is it that they come to you for? What is it that people say, oh, you have to meet, and that's you, because you have that special ability? That's what personal power is. That's what having a power relationship is all about. If you can be singled out to be the person that others want to meet, that is the start of something that's fabulous. So we have included some action steps for you to take, worksheets for you to work with, so you can figure out what your personal power is. So you can figure out what are the powerful relationships that you want. And also, what is your uniqueness? So if you will work with those, this will help you with everything that we're talking about today. So I want to wish you the very best. Create a unique you. Let us know how it goes and if we can help you in any way. Be sure you let us know about your uniqueness, what people have found about you, and what they love about you. And you can email me at any time to let me know what you've discovered by doing these things, because I'm really interested in where your personal power and your personal journey is taking you.